Hiya folks, we are going to look at replacing the left outer tie rod end on a 2006 Baja. So let's have a look. First of all, we can see we got the car jacked up. It is supported with a jack stand. See, this is just one sexy ride here. I mean, whew, the medium blue Baja. And what we're looking at is this tie rod end right here on the driver's side. It's got a little play in it. So we'll look at taking it off. Well, the first thing I did was got in the car and cranked the wheel all the way to the left to bring the tie rod out, the tie rod end out to me as close as I could. Next up, you can see it's a little wet. I hit the bolt that holds it tight and the castle nut with a little WD-40, and I grabbed a 19mm wrench, and we're going to crank that nut off. Since some things are just never as easy as one and done, I'm going to hit this with a little fire. I already heated it up a little bit. I'm just using some regular old MAP gas. Put that 19 back on. See if she'll break free. Oh, much better. Alright, I'm going to loosen that a couple of cranks. Take the next steps then. Alright, I cranked off the retainer nut a little bit. Should give the tie rod end enough room to spin. Next is to take off this castle nut. You can see I've already got it soaking in WD-40. You use whatever penetrating oil you like. And you can see there's a cotter pin on there. So next step is to remove that cotter pin. See if I can do this on camera. I'm not sure I can do it one-handed, but alright, at least I can start. You see the cotter pin, you got to bend it up and just slide it out. Okay, took just a little bit of work in it, but we got this cotter pin, slides out now. And next is to remove that castle nut, which is a 18mm. Again, we'll see if we can just do this on screen here. No, it's not an 18. $19. And that was nice and easy now that the cotter pin is removed. So we'll remove this. Alright, that castle nut just spun right off nice and easy. Now before we proceed any further, a step I took a little ahead of time is get the new one out, get it out of the box, line it up, and compare it with the old one. See that it's going to line up, see that it's the same size, because what we're going to do is spin this old one off at a certain, and we're going to count the number of turns it takes to completely remove it. Then we'll know how many spins to put this one back on. I'm going to take it in for an alignment anyway, but this will get it as close as possible here in my garage. The next trick is to remove the tie rod end from the knuckle here. Now the mechanics will tell you hit it on the side and it'll pop right out, and we'll try that. Truth be told, I'll try that a few times, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to drop the hammer right down on top of the threads. Now obviously you don't do that on threads you're going to be reusing, but this tie rod end I'm not going to be reusing, so if I just hit it here, it'll pop right out, no problem. So next is, now remember we hit this with some heat, so it might be hot. So we're going to test it quick. It's still warm. And see if I can just turn it. Nope. See, the tie rod on the inside is turning, so I'm going to have to put on a wrench here, hold it while put on a wrench here and hold the tie rod while I twist the end off. That's going to require 2 hands, but essentially what I'm going to do is grab the tie rod itself has a place to grab it with a wrench, so we can hold that still so the tie rod itself is not moving while we crank on the tie rod. The tie rod itself also has a place to put a wrench, and we can twist it off. Meanwhile, all the while, we're counting the number of revolutions. There is the old tie rod end. There's the new one. It was on there really, really tight. It took some considerable fire to come off, and it came off in 11 full revolutions. So I'm going to let it cool down. I'm going to clean the threads up a little bit with a wire brush, and I'm going to turn this one on full 11 revolutions. That would be 1. Okay, I screwed it on 10 revolutions. It's as simple as, there's the 11th. I left the castle nut, the new castle nut on the new tie rod on just so I didn't ding the threads of it. But take that off, and we need to get the new tie rod end up through the knuckle. I can grab it. It has cooled down. I don't know if I can do it single-handedly, so I can video it, but it's pretty simple. That's it. Now I want to catch the new castle nut. See if I can prop it up with a knee. There. Catch the threads there. That's more or less in position. I'll tighten that down. I'll look up the torque specs in a minute. I need to tighten up this nut here back to secure the tie rod end onto the tie rod itself. I didn't point out earlier, and I don't know if you can see it on the video, but I also, on the tie rod itself, I scratched right on top so I'd know exactly where it was perfectly straight up. So I'm going to realign it perfectly straight up as I tighten that nut. Be back in a minute. Well, I did look it up. It's 18 to 22, and according to Marissa Tomei, I always torque to the maximum specification, so I've adjusted the wrench for 22, and we'll just crank it on until we hit the click. There's our 22. Now, the last thing is to put back in the cotter pin. So we'll have to play around with the threads just a little bit to find the find the hole. Slip the cotter pin in, bend it up. Be back in a minute. There we go. Just a little back and forth, and you can see I've got a clear shot at the hole for the cotter pin. It's as simple as sliding it through. Push it all the way through. We'll bend up the tab at the end. We'll push down the other end of it. And that is the completion of the tie rod end. The only other thing to do is throw the wheel back on and take it for a ride.